At this time, we have quarterback coach Rhett Rodriguez. Questions for Rhett? Rhett?
So, Rhett, start with, I mean, obviously you grew up in the system besides playing in it and now coaching in it. So what kind of advantage is it to have this depth in it, even though you haven't really coached in it that long?
Yeah, I think this is a system that I knew kind of our playbook before I knew my own high school playbook. Shout out to my high school coach, Jeff Skurin. I probably drove him crazy with all the things like, oh, well, we do this play. Like, can we put that in? He's like, Rhett, you'll get there eventually. But it has been cool to see just all the places we've been over the years between, of course, when we were here the first time back around to Michigan, Arizona, Ole Miss, Louisiana Monroe, Jack State, how certain aspects of the offense have stayed the same and certain aspects have changed. I've had a front row seat to the whole thing, so it's been really cool to see how it's evolved over the years. And I've been one of the few people who've been in that front row, kind of seeing that all over the years. So it's been really cool to see.
So how has it evolved? How is it different than it was 17 years ago when your dad was here the first time?
Yeah, I think something that we've consistently gotten faster over the years, just with how fast we snap the ball. We've always been a team, we say we like to play with 11, so the quarterback run game is a big aspect of what we do. It's always been a big aspect of that. But now I think we play a lot more 11 personnel with the tight end in. Before we had, Owen Schmidt as a fullback all the time. He was kind of a fullback tight end. Now we have more of a traditional tight end that could be in the core, outside, split out. And the reason for that being that now you don't have to sub in and out for whenever we go fast and go up tempo. So I think that's been a big aspect of it. And then just RPOs, especially over the past few years. Tyler Huff, our quarterback at Jack State, was really comfortable with it. Last year we did more RPOs than I think any other year that we did. So that's been a new aspect of it as well.
Right. What's your relationship and dynamic of Pat White being with you now? Because that's a little different. Not only are you breaking into coaching kind of officially, but you have someone who can argue as the greatest quarterback in program history working right with you and did it.
Yeah, how awesome is that, man? I get to, when I was, this building was a little different the last time around, but growing up, me and Raquel were always running around, and between Rasheed Marshall, Pat White, Noel Devine, I got an old picture of me sitting on Rasheed's lap holding the number 1 up. So, yeah, how awesome is it that I get to be around with those guys every day? And the way I view it, we really have 4 quarterbacks coaches between me, Pat White, of course, my dad, and Travis Strickett. We really have 4 guys that all have eyes on the quarterback, so we're really well covered in that part of it. But, yeah, it's just awesome to be able to sit in meeting rooms with Pat and have him drop some wisdom here and there. He's always got some good things to say, so it's been really fun.
How are you feeling about the quarterback room that you're working with so far going into spring practice?
I've been impressed so far with what we got. I think we have a lot of depth at that position. That's something where, again, we always say we want to get at least 3 guys ready to go, ready to win with. And I always look at it as I'm trying to recruit people that were better than I was. So we got multiple quarterbacks who are more talented, better than I was, which is a step above of that, of course. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't too shabby myself. But I feel like we got pretty good depth in that position. Of course, the first spring, there's going to be some kinks to work out, but I've been pretty pleased with where we are right now.
Is there Nico in particular returning? What do you see out of that kind of like having that veteran presence that's been in the program a few years and has that kind of that experience that's in Morgantown at WVU in this building?
Yeah, I think it's anytime you have someone with some experience. Of course, I know Garrett Green was a great player for us this past year and is moving on now being a receiver. Good for him. Hoping he does well at the next level. But Nico has played in some games, if I'm thinking right. He started 2 games last year, 2 games the year before, and won all 4 starts, which is always great. So you want to have people with game reps. Oftentimes, whenever you're replacing a starting quarterback, sometimes those other guys haven't got as many reps. But Nico having some game action is always a big step up because practice is one thing, the games are, of course, another. So we really have multiple quarterbacks now who have live, meaningful, in-game reps at different programs. So I think we're in a pretty good position.
Rhett, I don't know if anyone's asked you this yet, but obviously Rich coming back coaching here is more than just taking a job. I mean, obviously this is coming back home for him, and everyone kind of knows the way it ended before. Was there any trepidation for you on not only you, but Rich deciding to come back here with the way that it ended before? Any concern whether you and your family would be fully accepted, whether it'd be something you guys want to do, whether you want to deal with the controversial part of that, if you know kind of what I'm asking?
Yeah, I don't think the controversy is something that we're really focused on. I think we're all excited. whenever this position we knew it kind of had a chance. Of course, we were at Jack State dealing with the conference championship and all that type of stuff. But once this became open, of course, this is our home. Both my mom and my dad's side live here, so I've seen some cousins I haven't seen in a few years. We had a coach's clinic, and my cousin Sam was up here and doing all that stuff. So we'll have some Rodriguez family reunions coming up here soon, hopefully. But it's been really special. Just again, I've been back a couple times over the years just to see family, but I haven't spent a lot of time in Morgantown. And so it's cool to see, certain roads and certain buildings. I'm like, yep, I remember that. And then certain parts, I'm like, that wasn't there before. And so I think we're all really excited to be back. Of course, being at a Power 4 level and in the Big 12 conference is a huge position to be in. And so I think once this came open, of course, we love Jack State. We had a great time there. We love the players there. We could have been happy there for, the rest of my dad's career, whatever that may be. But whenever this opportunity came up, it was something we were all really excited about.
Dynamic. Your dad is your boss is your dad. So, and you, like I was saying to your dad a little bit earlier, you can talk to family a little bit different than you can talk to your boss. How is that dynamic for you? Are there points where like you're in a meeting room where you feel, okay, I'm comfortable enough to talk to him like my dad rather than my boss, and just go, hey dad, lay off. It's like where just an employee might not be as bold to say it a certain way.
Well, yeah, I think I don't know if I'm telling him to lay off very many times, but I think there's times where, like, again, I've been around our football programs, again, all the places that we've been to, and so sometimes I know what he's looking for, and I'm able to kind of read between the lines of the message that he's trying to share. And so I'm always they call me the tree hugger of the staff, because we always print out all these paper, and I'm like, we have technology now, and so I'm always trying to get that part of it going. But I think there's times where, again, some of the members of the staff have been with us at various stops, but I think me and Coach Garrett, a couple of those guys that were with us at Jack State, we're able to kind of be that second layer of communication where, all right, I know what he's saying, but maybe it might be unclear sometimes. And so I think we're able to be kind of that communicator, and it's been pretty special you can eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner with, me, Raquel, and my dad. Not many people get to do that very often. So it's something we're very blessed and excited about.
Well, and the other thing he mentioned, like he kind of joked, he's like, oh yeah, no, Rhett's going to be on the earpiece. You don't want me on it and he said, like, he's got a different kind of personality and way about him that really works, where I'm just going to be screaming. He can really get to the heart of the matter. How do you feel that dynamic helps in building a quarterback room and kind of doing what needs to be done in getting the offense through what your dad wants to do?
Yeah, I think that was last year at Jack State was the first year that you were able to have the quarterback communication, and I was the guy on the headset last year with him. And that was something where, again, my dad has a lot of things that he has to have kind of a global view. He's not just looking at the quarterback. He's looking at the offensive line, of course, the defense, too, when he's out there. So he's got a lot of things going on, especially also calling plays, that he has whatever, it's 5 seconds to think about a play and call it, and I can have my pure focus on getting the quarterback ready to go. And so I think also just being kind of that calm demeanor, helping the quarterbacks out, where my dad can focus more on calling the plays, and I can be the ones kind of communicating that to the quarterbacks is something that it worked well for us last year, and I expect it to work well for us this year as well.
And he also mentioned, he talked about the first time he got on you after like missing a throw, and he starts jumping you, and he said he starts laughing. He goes like, "That's not the reaction I was expecting." But you said you laughed and said, "I knew this was coming." How much does that help when just what's coming?
Yeah, I think, you'll probably hear us say all the time, cover 3, throw the seams. That's like one of our big things. A lot of our pass plays, cover 3, the weakness of the defense is the 2 seams, put 2 verticals on that middle safety. But the first time, I remember it was like one of my first practices at Arizona. We called a 4 verticals play. I knew it was going to be cover 3, but I hesitated. I was waiting. And so I was like, I've heard a lot of people, get this correction at this point, and so I knew it was coming. I was like, this is my first time that I get to be targeted on me as opposed to someone else. But I think, again, that's something where I've grown up knowing the system, and it's, again, easier said than done sometimes to do some of our plays, but I've able to kind of see game reps and see how the offense has kind of evolved over the years. So sometimes we're kind of on that same page, and as a player, it was something where he kind of knew what I was thinking, I knew what he was thinking, and so there was almost like an unspoken communication, but sometimes it's spoken out loud.
Two questions. First one, what got you into business? I mean, rather than coaching at first, and how did you break that to your dad?
Yeah, I think that's something where we always say we want you to get an education, not just the degree. And, I've been in a kind of unique position where football has been my life. It's been our family's life, kind of everywhere we've been. And I wanted to experience my education and put that to use. And so I got a business management minor, or a business management major, then a master's in entrepreneurship, master's in psychology. And I wanted to put that to use before I got into football. I wasn't sure if I was going to coach or not. I knew that was probably going to happen, but I wanted to put that education to use. And so I worked in finance for a couple of years, but I was actually hybrid, so I was able to kind of be half in person, half virtual. So half the time I was flying out to Jacksonville and up in the press box doing that stuff as well. But now in the world of NIL, the financial aspect of it, I think, has been really helpful for me. Like last year, I did like a financial literacy thing for the coaches and for the players, and I'll be doing that here probably soon after spring break as well too, where that's something where that's a kind of a newer aspect of the game, and I wanted to get that to be kind of something that I would be one of my strengths. And so I think that was a really helpful 2 years for me to work in finance and kind of translate that over to this as well.
And the second question is, and I don't remember how old you were, but in 2007 when all that crap was coming down, did you know what was going on? And I mean, what was it like to go through, losing the pit and then leaving here, and
Yeah, I think I was 9 years old, if I'm thinking right. I was born in 1998, so yeah, right around 9 years old. And I remember it was something where the year before, Alabama had been talking to us, and we stayed. And at this point, we decided to go, and it was, of course, something where my friends at school were like, "Oh, what's going on? Like, you guys leaving or whatever it is." And so at the time, of course, you're a little kid. You're just like, "Oh, where are we going now?" But it was just one of those things. As a family, we're like, "All right, we're going to the next place," and it was just, "All right, here we go. Let's pack up our bags and go." And so, of course, West Virginia is a special place, and we're happy to be back. But at the time, it was just a matter of, all right, we thought that was best for us to do. And it was, all right, we're communicating, we're a family, and here we go on board to the next stop. And every place we've been, it's always been, living in a coach's life. It's almost being like, the military. You're moving around so much that almost every spot it's been cool to see how every state, every school, every program is a little different. And so it's kind of a blessing in disguise of moving around, making new friends, and doing that.
You grew up in your dad's system, played in it, you've coached in it. What does hard edge mean to you, both in general, like as someone in the program, but also as a quarterbacks coach specifically? And do you think this quarterback room you have now, how do you think they exhibit that hard edge mentality so far?
Yeah, we talk about hard edge being mentally and physically tough at all times. You're going to get knocked down. It's how you get back up. And I think especially the way we play, we go so fast that sometimes it's chaotic. There's a lot of moving parts. And as the quarterback, you need to be kind of that calm in the storm. So you need to be the one. Of course, this isn't like it's not life or death, not a military type thing. But at the same time, it is kind of bullets are flying, people are coming, people are blitzing. So it's a hectic environment, and we try to make it hectic on purpose. We try to go as fast as we can. And part of I think having that hard edge as a quarterback is, hey, if it's 4th and 1 and we need to get a first down, you're lowering your shoulder and you're running somebody over. And we don't want quarterbacks to take unnecessary hits. We don't need to be a superhero at all times. But as the quarterback position, we're an athlete. I always try to joke, I was a dual threat athlete. Might not always look like it. But you have to be ready. You have to be ready to run. And, of course, the first job as a quarterback is putting the ball where you need to be, being accurate. But at the same time, again, if it's 4th and short, we need 1 yard line to go to the goal line. We're not sliding. We're going head first, and we're getting that touchdown. And I think that's what hard edge is all about.
Recruiting stuff for you. How much did you have to do with the 2 quarterbacks you brought up from the portal?
Yeah, I think that was something. Again, we lost Garrett Green from last year. We had, I think, another quarterback in the portal and transfer from there. Again, if there's one position that we're probably going to oversign at, it will be at quarterback because, again, as everyone knows, if you don't have a strong quarterback room, it could just, even if you have one guy, he gets hurt, now your season's over. That's not in a good position to be in. So every place we've been, we've signed multiple quarterbacks. And, again, having Nico coming back from last year, we felt good about him. But we also wanted to surround him with multiple people who have game reps, who have game experience. And so right whenever, we got this job, of course, the transfer portal had opened up. Me and a couple other members of the staff tried to identify who are the quarterbacks that are in the portal that we can get that have some game experience. Again, the first thing that we looked at was who has actually played in games, and we wanted to sign multiple people that had that experience. And so that was kind of the first thing that we looked at when we got the job was who's in the portal, who can we get, and I feel pretty good, again, about where we are in that room.
Was there like a cap on it? Like, hey, you can get 2, not 4. I'm sure you want to have as many as you can, right? But
Yeah, we wanted to get at least one out of the portal, and then we were able to get 2 of them, so we felt even better. Again, that's a position where right now, first spring, you want to have multiple guys that are ready to go, ready to play. You want to get multiple guys that you feel comfortable with put out there in the game. And it was a position where if we have someone that we don't want to take someone and reach on somebody just to get a body, but if there are multiple quarterbacks that we liked, that we wanted, which we did, we were able to sign both of them. And I think everyone in the quarterback room has been pretty impressive so far.
how do you recruit out of the portal? Because like it's so different in person for high school stuff, right? You probably still know that, right? But like, and they're different players too, the 2 you brought in from the portal, but they're here because they have some quality or qualities that you like. Like, where do you begin it? How do you find that?
Yeah, so high school recruiting, of course, especially with quarterbacks, it's a longer process where sometimes these guys are getting identified as a freshman, as a sophomore. And so a lot of times it's more of like a 2-year process or whatever it is where you're bringing them into camps. You're maybe seeing them at their school. Then they're coming to you on official visit. Like right now we have some scheduled in April, a lot of guys coming in June. In the portal, it's kind of like speed dating. You say, you got to identify, okay, are you interested? Are we interested? Now let's set up a visit. So it was with 2 quarterbacks that we had, Jalen and Max, that both transferred in. We talked to them on the phone. I had a good conversation. We say, okay, is there interest here? Yes. Let's fly them out, set up an official visit. And it was like, hey, you're here. And within a day or so, you were committed. So it's one of those things where it is not a long, drawn-out process. There's certain windows, of course, that you have to stay within. So those both with Jalen and Max, it was like, hey, here's a phone call, here's a conversation. Let's get you out here. Let's put you on a visit. And heck, half these campus tours, I was going on with them. I didn't know this campus that well either. So yeah, both of those were a really fast process, but we're happy with where we're at.
With recruiting, does it come natural for you? Is it something you had to learn, and also, what areas are you going to be targeting for recruiting?
Yeah, I think, and that was the other part of the job that I had was I spent a lot of time cold calling, and so if my job before was I was calling financial advisors and trying to convince them to use our products and services. So I'm like, if I can convince a guy who's been a financial advisor for 20-something years to use one of our products, it's a little easier to convince a transfer guy or a high school quarterback to come to West Virginia football. You have a great pitch to sell. But again, that's something where I felt like I wanted to get some experience out there recruiting. And although it might not be exactly the same, I spent a lot of time on the phones, a lot of time trying to convince people, setting up in-person meetings and that type of stuff. So I think that also helped translate over where now having a phone call with a 18-year-old recruit is a lot easier than someone who's been a financial advisor in a suit for 30 years. So it's been not too hard of a transition. But again, I think that was something I wanted to do. I wanted to get some time in finance and in sales, so that kind of worked out for me.
For you?
Recruiting areas, quarterback is one of those things where you are going national. And so, of course, we want to stay within kind of our 6-hour radius is what everyone's going to be focused on. But quarterbacks especially, you kind of have to go all over the country for them.
So what skill set does a quarterback in the system have to have, and what's sort of flexible?
Yeah, I think if we're not going to recruit any statues. And so, again, if we were forced in a position where we have to throw the ball 60 times a game, we'll throw the ball 60 times a game. But we want someone, you don't have to be a 4-5, you don't have to be a Pat White necessarily. Those don't come across very often. But we want someone who we say have to be a willing runner. You don't have to be, again, a blazing speed guy. But if that end squeezes, you have to get out there and get a first down on your legs. So that's the first part, being a good athlete. But then, of course, as a quarterback, you have to be accurate. You have to have a strong arm. So we're looking at that. And then within our system, you have to be a fast thinker. So someone who can process defenses quickly is another aspect that we're looking for. So kind of those are the 3 things. That are you a willing runner? Are you accurate? Do you have a strong arm? And then the third part is, do you get it football-wise? Do you have a high football IQ? Those are really the 3 things that we look at.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.